We are live doing the book club for A Court of Thorns and Roses. So this isn't your typical book club or audiobook or anything like that. Basically what I'm doing is I'm just reading this book out loud to you guys, a couple chapters at a time. We're on chapter 38 and we kind of just giggle and, you know, we're a little goofy about it basically. But this is A Court of Thorns and Roses. My book is looking a little rough. The book is looking a little rough today. Hi, you guys. Hi, Dee. Hi, Vicky. I'll let a few more people join before I get started. I hope everybody's doing really good. If you're new here, my name is Steph. I'm traveling the country in my Jeep with my dog. My dog, Clover, is on the other side of the tent. She's chewing on her bone. Clover says hi. She says thank you for the bone. Clover's chewing on the bone. And yeah, we're going to read the book here in a second. Hi, Vicky, Valerie, City Boy Dan, Monterey, MC, Elaine Star, Esperanza. Hi, everybody. So tonight we're going to be doing chapter 38. Hi, guys. We're just hanging out. Hi, Ramona. Hi, Jackie. Hi, Aaron. Hope everybody's doing good. How many people were watching the TikTok live stream I was just doing? Hi, Janice, Terry, Aaron, Jackie, everybody. How many people were just over on TikTok? We left TikTok to come over to YouTube to do our book reading. It is actually super nice. It's in the 50s tonight, I think. I don't think it's going to drop down into the 40s at all. Hi, Ghost Flowers, Stormy, Valerie, Jackie, Vicky, MC. A bunch of you guys were. Yeah, I always hate ending a live stream to start another live stream, but it's good because you guys are holding me accountable to get the book done. We're almost towards the end. So there's only 44 chapters and we're starting chapter 38 tonight. So that means we'll end at chapter 40. So that's going to give us 2 more live streams, I think. Hi guys. Okay, so we're going to get started. So this is A Court of Thorns and Roses. Don't laugh at me too much with the reading because I don't know, I'm a little rusty. Love from Italy. Hi, Andrea, April, Michael Taylor, Ramona, Lorraine. Okay. All right, so chapter 38, page 337. I tried not to look at my left arm as I scrubbed at the floors of the hallway. The ink, which in the light was actually a blue so dark it appeared black, was a cloud upon my thoughts, and those were bleak enough even without knowing I'd sold myself to Rhysand. I couldn't look at the eye on my palm. I had an absurd, creepy feeling that it watched me. I dunked the large brush into the bucket of the red-skinned guards that had thrown into my arms. I dunked the large brush into the bucket the red-skinned guards had thrown into my arms. I could barely comprehend them through their mouths full of long yellow teeth. But when they gave me the brush and bucket and shoved me into the long hallway of white marble, I understood. If it's not washed and shining by supper, one of them had said, its teeth clicking as it grinned. We're to tie you to the spit and give you a few good churns over the fire. What do you need, Clover? Are you thirsty? I think Clover might be thirsty for her water bowl. Hold on, you guys. You thirsty? No? What do you need? No, she's a little thirsty. Hi from Cairo. Hello, Agward. Hi, Emily. Carolina. Mr. Green Glow Stick. Draven. Oh, just a reminder, you guys. Kiss emojis. Just a reminder, if you guys see a troll while I'm reading and stuff, you guys are able to block them. And you won't see them in the chat anymore. So if anybody's bothering you guys, just remember, I try to block and stuff as I see them, but I might not notice people while I'm reading. Do I have pretty toes? Sometimes. Do you live in a tent? Sometimes. Hola. Hi, Norma. Hi, Sharon. Hi, you guys. Yeah, I think we have like 5 or 6 that have come in just now. It's a legit question. Oh, I don't know what your question was. Have you ever farted in real life? How old are you? Isn't it past your bedtime? Yes, I have. Of course I have. Why are people so gross? Because they're 11. I thought I put that this live wasn't for kids. This is too steamy for kids. Kids can't watch this kind of stuff. All right. But I appreciate the engagement. All right. With that, they left. I had no idea when supper was, and so I frantically began washing. My back already ached like fire, and I hadn't been scrubbing the marble hall for more than 30 minutes. But the water they'd given me was filthy, and the more I scrubbed the floor, the dirtier it became. When I went to the door to ask for a bucket of clean water, I found it locked. There would be no help. An impossible task, a task to torment me. The spit, perhaps, that was the source of the constant screaming in the dungeons. Would a few turns to the spit melt all the flesh from me, or would it just burn me bad enough to force me into another bargain with Rhysand? I cursed as I scrubbed harder, the coarse bristles of the brush crinking and whispering against the tiles. A rainbow of brown was left in their wake, and I growled as I dunked the brush again. Filthy water came out with it, dripping all over the floor. Hola, hi Norma. School must be out. Yeah, probably school kids. Hi, you guys. That's okay. I gulped down steadying gaps of... I gulped down steadying gasps of air. There had to be a rational way to do this. There had to be some old wives' trick. The spit tied to a spit like a roasted pig. I grabbed the brush from where it had bounced away and scrubbed at the floor until my hands throbbed. It looked like someone had spilled mud all over the place. It was dirty. It was actually turning into mud harder that I scrubbed it. I'd probably wail and beg for mercy when they rotated me on that spit. There had to be red lines covering Claire's body. What instrument of torture had they come from? My hands trembled and I set down the brush. I could take it down a giant worm, but washing a floor, that was an impossible task. Same for me. I am not a cleaner. I don't know. Do you guys enjoy scrubbing? I'm not somebody to scrub the floors. Is that a book? Yeah. Falling asleep to a good read. That's right, Cheryl. No, I'm not a cleaner. Scrubbing floors is not for me. A door clicked open somewhere down the hall and I shot to my feet. An auburn head peered back at me. I sagged with relief. It was Lucian. Not Lucian, actually. The face that turned toward me was female and unmasked. She looked perhaps a bit older than Amarantha, but her porcelain skin was exquisitely colored, graced with the faintest blush of rose along her cheeks. She had the red hair not been indication enough. When her russet eyes met mine, I knew who she was. I bowed my head to the lady of the autumn court, and she inclined her chin slightly. I suppose that was honor enough. For giving her your name in place of my son's life, she said, her voice as sweet as sun-warmed apples. She must have been in the crowd that day. She pointed at the bucket with a long, slender hand. My debt is paid. She disappeared through the door she'd opened, and I could have sworn I smelled roasting chestnuts and crackling fires in her wake. It was only after the door shut that I realized I should have thanked her, and only after I looked in my bucket, I realized I'd been hiding my left arm behind my back. I knelt beside the bucket and dipped my fingers into the water. They came out clean. I shuddered, allowing myself a moment to slump onto my knees before I dumped some of the water onto the floor and watched it wash away with the muck. Hi, you guys. You have someone do it for you. You're not a scrubber of floors. I am not scrubber of the floors. No, I've never been good at that. To the chagrin of the guards, I had completed their impossible task. But the next day they smiled at me as they shoved me into a massive dark bedroom, lit only by a few candles, and pointed to the looming fireplace. Servants spilled lentils in the ash, one of the guards said, tossing me a wooden bucket. Clean it up before the occupant returns, or he'll peel off your skin in strips. A slammed door, the click of a lock, and I was alone. Sorting lentils from ashen embers, ridiculous, wasteful, and I approached the darkened fireplace and cringed. Impossible. You're picky about your floors, Terry. Ugh, I'm not. I'm not picky about my floors. I don't have floors. I cast a glance at the bedroom. No windows, no exits, save for the one that I'd just chucked through. The bed was enormous and neatly made, its black sheets of silk. There was nothing else in the room beyond basic furniture, not even discarded clothes or books or weapons. You're a scrubber, but that's because you grew up in a harder situation. Yeah. Hello, you guys. Some of us are into cleaning. That's okay. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be. Do you need to go outside, Clover? I think Clover needs a break. Clover needs a break. Clover needs to go outside. I went outside, but she didn't go outside. Let's see if we can't let her go outside real quick. You do a good mopping? You're good at mopping? You need to go outside, Clover? Clover wants to go outside. She says, please. She got some water, she got a bone, but she didn't get to go outside. All right, there you go, Clover. You can go out if you want. Hello, you guys. Oh, I can see that, Emily. Yeah. Yeah, some of us grew up in well, harder situations. I mean, hoarding is a hard situation. You know, it's tricky. I'm sure you were really impacted by that. It's definitely a hard situation. Know how to make my own tater tots? Well, that's amazing. I'm glad you can make your own tater tots. I guess I can read while she's outside. She's doing her business, I think. She's sniffing around. Oh, you know how to make your own tater tots. Good evening. What's up here? I'm reading a book. We're hanging out. If you guys are new here, I'm traveling the country in my Jeep with my dog, Clover. Clover says hi. She's outside. And we're tent camping. We're camping outside of Zion. That was fast, Clover. Clover's back inside. She's fast. We're camping outside of Zion on some Bureau of Land Management land in my tent. And we're going to read this book. This is I think it's our 18th or 19th live stream. I'm not sure on this book. All right, there she goes. Okay. Oops. Okay, she's settled. That was fast. That was easy. Good evening, good evening. You have a sale on baby oil. Ah, well, Diddy knows. You just subbed. Thank you, Daquan. Thank you. All right, what's the time now in the U.S.? 10:24 p.m. What country are you guys watching from? Nice, that's awesome. I've wanted to pack up, so the same. Oh, yeah. I've been on the road for 2.5 years. I mostly go live on TikTok, but I go live on YouTube too. I have videos and stuff, but most of my stuff is on TikTok. What's your spaghetti policy here? Lax. Very, very laissez. We don't have much for spaghetti policies. We're okay with spaghetti. Especially the flying spaghetti monster. It's fine. It's fine. That was good. Diddy knows. Okay, I'm going to go back to the book. All right, so I'm just reading this book out loud. I haven't read a book in over a year, so I picked up this book, and you guys said I should live stream it, so that's what we've been doing. I've been doing 2 chapters at a time, usually, roughly. So we're on page 340. This is like our 18th or 19th live stream of this book. Bunch of kids. Yeah, a bunch of kids. Just a reminder, the cool thing about YouTube, you can block people if they're bothering you in the chat or whatever. A lot of them look kind of like just light trolling. Hi guys. I don't mind a little weirdness in the chat, but all right. What am I doing? Whoa, wait. Where did I leave off? Oh, okay. I think I turned the page. I cast a glance about the bedroom. No windows, no exits, save for the one that I'd just been chucked through. The bed was enormous and neatly made, its black sheets of silk. There was nothing else in the room beyond basic furniture, not even discarded clothes or books or weapons. As if its occupants never slept there, I knelt before the fireplace and calmed my breathing. I had keen eyes, I reminded myself. I could spot rabbits hiding in the underbrush and track most things that wanted to remain unseen. Spotting the lentils couldn't be that hard. Sighing, I crawled further into the fireplace and began. We're on page 340. I was wrong. 2 hours later, my eyes were burning and aching, and even though I combed through every inch of that fireplace, there was always more lentils, more and more, that I'd somehow not spotted. The guards had never said when the owner of this room would return, and so every tick of the clock on the mantel had become a death knell, every footstep outside the door causing me to reach for the iron poker leaning against the hearth wall. Amarantha had never said anything about not fighting back, never specified that I wasn't allowed to defend myself. At least I'd go down swinging. I picked up the ashes again and again. My hands were now black and stained, my clothes covered in soot. Surely there couldn't be anything more. The lock clicked and I lunged for the poker as I got to my feet, my back to the hearth and the iron rod hidden behind me. Darkness entered the room, gutting the candles with the snow-kissed breeze. I gripped the poker harder, pressing against the stone of the fireplace, even as that darkness settled on the bed and took a familiar form. As wonderful as it is to see you, Feyre, darling, Rhysand said, sprawled on the bed, his head propped up by his hand. Do I want to know why you are digging through my fireplace? I bent my knees slightly, preparing to run, to duck, to do anything to get out of that situation and far, far away. They said I had to clean out the lentils from the ashes or you'd rip off my skin. Did they now? He smiled. Do you have, it actually said a feline smile. What is it with, she's got a thing for cats. This writer has a thing for cats. It's kind of funny. Sorry, the chat is kind of wild. Emily's purring. Emily knows. Sorry, I was trying to read through those paragraphs. That's good. Okay. They said that you would rip off my skin. Did they now? A feline smile. I have to thank you for this idea. I hissed. He wasn't allowed to kill me, not with my bargain with Amarantha, but there were other ways to hurt me. Oh no, he drawled. No one's learned of our little bargain yet, and you've managed to keep it quiet. Shame riding you a bit hard? I clenched my jaw and pointed at the fireplace with one hand, still keeping the poker tucked behind me. Is this clean enough for you? I asked. Why were there lentils in my fireplace to begin with? I gave him a flat look. One of your mistress's household chores, I suppose. He said, examining his nails. Apparently she or her cronies think I'll find some sport with you. My mouth dried up. Or is it a test for you? I managed to get out. You said you bet on me during my first task. She didn't seem pleased about it. And what could Amarantha possibly have to test about me? I didn't balk from that violet stare. Amarantha's, I can't say the W word. Amarantha's lady of the, I don't know. Lucian had once called him. You lied to her about Claire. You knew very well what I looked like. Rhysand sat up in a fluid movement and braced his forearms on his thighs. Such grace contained in such a powerful form. I was slaughtering on the battlefield before you were even born, he had once said to Lucian. I didn't doubt it. Amarantha plays her games, he said simply, and I play mine. It gets rather boring down here day after day. She let you out for fire night, and you somehow got out to put that head in the garden. She asked me to put that head in the garden. As for the fire night, he looked me up and down. I had my reasons to be out there. Do not think, Feyre, that it did not cost me. He smiled again, and it didn't meet his eyes. What's today's date? Oh, I don't know. What is today's date? Does anybody know? Today is Monday, March 24th, 2025. It is 10:30 p.m. Any more brilliant questions, Fanny? Now I lost my spot. Now you made me lose my spot, Fanny. Am I in the right episode? Yes. This is live. We're on page 342 of chapter 18. Or, I mean, chapter 38. You're in the right spot, Fanny. But now I lost my spot. Do not think it cost me. He smiled again. It didn't meet his eyes. Are you going to put down that poker, or can I expect you to start swinging it soon? I swallowed my curse and brought it out, but it didn't put it down. A valiant effort, but useless, he said. True, so true, that he didn't even need to take his hands out of his pockets to grip Lucian's mind. How is it that you have such power still and others don't? I thought she robbed all of you of your abilities. He lifted a groomed, dark brow. Oh, she took my powers. A caress of talons against my mind. I jerked back a step, slamming into the fireplace. The pressure on my mind vanished. This is just the remnant, the scraps I get to play with. Your Tamlin has brute strength and shape-shifting. My arsenal is a far deadlier assortment. I knew he wasn't bluffing, not when I'd felt those talons on my mind. So you can't shapeshift, I asked. It's not some High Lord specialty? Oh, all High Lords can. Each of us has a beast roaming beneath our skin, roaring to get out. While your Tamlin prefers fur, I find wings and talons to be more entertaining. A lick of cold kissed down my spine. Can you shift now, or did she take that too? So many questions from a little human, he said. But the darkness that hovered around him began to writhe and twist and flare as he rose to his feet. I blinked and it was done. I lifted the iron poker just a little bit. Not a full shift, you see, Rhysand said, clicking the black razor-sharp talons that had replaced his fingers. Below the knee, darkness stained his skin, but the talons also gleamed in lieu of toes. I don't particularly like yielding wholly to my baser side. Indeed, it was still Rhysand's face, his powerful male body, but flaring out behind him were massive black wings, like a bat's, like an ador's. He tucked them in neatly behind him, but the single claw at the apex of each peeked over his broad shoulders. Horrifying and stunning, the face of 1,000 nightmares and dreams. That again, useless part of me stirred at the sight. The way the candlelight shone through the wings, illuminating the veins, the way it bounced off of his talons. Rhysand rolled his neck, and it all vanished in a flash. The wings, the talons, the feet, leaving only the male behind, well-dressed and unruffled. No attempts at flattery. I had made a very, very big mistake in offering my life to him. But I said, you have high enough opinion of yourself already. I doubt that flattery of a little human matters much to you. Hi, Matthew. Hi, guys. He let out a low laugh that slid along my bones, warming my blood. I can't decide whether I should consider you admirable or very stupid for being so bold with a High Lord. Only around him did I have trouble keeping my mouth shut, it seemed, so I dared to ask, do you know the answer to the riddle? He crossed his arms. Cheating, are you? He asked. She never said I couldn't ask for help. Oh, but after all she had beaten to hell, she ordered us not to help you. I waited, but he shook his head. Even if I felt like helping you, even if I felt like helping you, even if I felt like helping you, I couldn't. She gives the order and we all bow to it. He picked a fleck of dust off of his black jacket. It's a good thing she likes me, isn't it? I opened my mouth to press him, to beg him, if it meant instant freedom. Don't waste your breath, he said. I can't tell you. No one here can. If she ordered us all to stop breathing, we would have to obey that too. He frowned at me and snapped his finger. The soot, the dirt, the ash vanished off of my skin, leaving me as clean as if I'd bathed. There, a gift for having the balls to even ask. I gave him a flat stare, but he motioned to the hearth. It was spotless. My bucket was filled with lentils. The door swung open of its own accord, revealing the guards who dragged me here. Hi, Janice. Hi, you guys. Hi, Donna. Page 344. Rhysand waved a lazy hand at them. She accomplished her task. Take her back. They grabbed for me, but he bared his teeth in a smile that was anything but friendly, and they halted. No more household chores, no more tasks, he said, the voice an erotic caress. Their yellow eyes went glazed and dull, their sharp teeth gleaming as their mouths slackened. Tell the others to stay out of her cell and don't touch her. Ah, it's a bug. There's a bug on the book. Nah, do you see it? What is it? I don't know. Whoa, Carolina with the $1.99 super chat. Let's go. Thank you, Carolina. OMG, says Jackie. Carolina with the $1.99. Thank you. Purr, says Carolina. Everybody's purring tonight. No more household chores, no more tasks, he said, his voice an erotic caress. Their yellow eyes went glazed and dull, their sharp teeth gleaming as their mouths slackened. Tell the others too, stay out of her cell and don't touch her. If you do, you're to take your own daggers and gut yourself. Understood? Dazed and numb nods, they blinked and straightened. I hid my trembling. Glamour, mind control, whatever he had done, it worked. They beckoned, but they did not touch me. Rhysand smiled at me. You're welcome, he purred as I walked out. I'm not even kidding. He purred. He purred. Why does she keep saying that the whole book? They're all purring. You're welcome, he purred. All right, we're on chapter 39, page 345. He said purr. I promise you. It is so funny. We should go back and count how many times she uses that word. It's so hilarious. She's got a thing for cats. She loves cats. New Leaf is sleeping. Oh, that's okay. He's working hard. And plus, I think he's been doing a lot of hiking and stuff too. Book should be called Purr. OMG, he did not. Yes. You're welcome, he purred. Do you see it right there? The very last line. You're welcome, he purred as he walked out. As I walked out. He purred. Isn't that so funny? I can't even. All right, chapter 39. From that point on, each morning and evening, a fresh hot meal appeared in my cell. I gobbled it down, but cursed Rhysand's name anyway. Stuck in the cell, I had nothing to do but ponder Amarantha's riddle, usually only to wind up with a pounding headache. I recited it again and again, but to no avail. Days passed, and I didn't see Lucian or Tamlin, and Rhysand never came to taunt me. I was alone, utterly alone, locked in silence, though the screaming in the dungeon still continued day and night. When that screaming became too unbearable and I couldn't shut it out, I would look at the eye tattooed on my palm. I wondered if he'd done it quietly to remind me of Jurian, a cruel, pretty slap in the face indicating that perhaps I was well on my way to belonging to him just as the ancient warrior now belonged to Amarantha. Every once in a while, I'd say a few words to the tattoo and then curse myself a fool, or curse Rhysand, but I could have sworn that I dozed off one night and it blinked. If I was counting the schedule of my meals correctly, about 4 days after I'd seen Rhysand in the room, 2 high fairy females arrived in my cell. Oh, Lottie. Holy moly, says Fanny. We're on page 346. They appeared through the cracks from slivers of darkness just as Rhysand had, but while he'd solidified into a tangible form, these fairies remained mostly made of shadow, their features barely discernible, save for their loose flowing cobweb gowns. They remained silent when they reached for me. I didn't fight them. There was nothing to fight them with, nowhere to run. The hands were clasped around my forearms. They were cool but solid, as if shadows of a coating a second skin. They had to have been sent by Rhysand, some servants of his from the night court. They could have been mutes for all they had said to me as they pressed close to my body and we physically stepped through the door, as if it wasn't there. Even if I had become a shadow too, my knees buckled at the sensation like spiders crawling down my spine, arms, as we walked through those dark, shrieking dungeons. None of the guards stopped us. They didn't even look in our direction. We were glamored, no more than flickering darkness to the passing eye. The fairies brought me up through the dusty stairwells and down the forgotten hallways until we reached a nondescript room where they stripped me, bathed me, and then, to my horror, began to paint my body. Their brushes were unbearably cold and ticklish, and their shadowy grips were firm when I wriggled. Things only worsened when they painted more intimate parts of me, and it was an effort to keep from kicking one of them in the face. They offered no explanation for why, no hint of whether this was another torment sent by Amarantha. Even if I fled, there was nowhere to escape to, not without damning Tamlin further. So I stopped demanding answers, stopped fighting back, and let them finish. From the neck up, I was regal. My face was adorned with cosmetics, rouge on my lips, a smearing of gold dust on my eyelids, kohl lining my eyes, and my hair was coiled around a small golden diadem embedded with lapis lazuli. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But from the neck down, I was a heathen god's plaything. They had continued the pattern of the tattoo on my arm, and once the blue-black paint had dried, they placed me on a gauzy white dress. If you could call it a dress, it was little more than 2 long shafts of gossamer, just wide enough to cover my self, pinned at each shoulder with gold brooches. The section flowed down a jeweled belt slung low across my hips. They were joined into a single piece of fabric that hung between my legs and to the floor. It barely covered me, and from the cold air on my skin, I knew that most of my backside was left exposed. The breeze caressing my bare skin was enough to kindle my rage. The two high fae ignored my demands to be clothed in something else, their impossibly shadowed faces veiled from me, but held my arms firm when I tried to rip the shift off. I wouldn't do that, a deep, lifting voice came from the doorway. Rhysand was leaning against the wall, his arms crossed over his chest. Yeah, it changes color, yeah. The blue stars are the subscribers. They're the members, the paying members, and the color changes based on how long you've been a member. That's right. I should have known it was his doing. Should have known from the matching designs all over my body. Our bargain hasn't started yet, I snapped. The instincts that had once told me to be quiet around Tam and Lucian utterly failed me when Rhysand was near. Oh, but I need an escort for the party. His violet eyes glittered with stars, and when I thought of you squatting in that cell all night alone, he waved a hand, and the fairy servants vanished through the door behind him. I flinched as they walked through the wood. No doubt an ability everyone in the night corps possessed. And Rhysand chuckled. You look just as I hoped you would. From the cobwebs of my memory, I recalled similar words Tamlin had once whispered in my ear. Is this necessary? I said, gesturing to the paint and clothing. Of course, he said coolly. How else would I know if anyone touches you? He approached, and I braced myself as he ran a finger along my shoulder, smearing the paint. As soon as his finger left my skin, the paint fixed itself, returning the design to its original form. The dress itself won't mar it, and neither will your movements, he said, his face close to mine. His teeth were far too near to my throat, and I'll remember precisely where my hands have been. But if anyone else touches you, let's say a high lord who enjoys springtime, I'll know. He flicked my nose. And Feyre, he added, his voice caressing murmur. I don't like my belongings tampered with. Ugh. That would be so annoying if you flicked your nose. that would be like such a ice wrapped around my stomach. He owned me for a week every month. Apparently he thought that extended to the rest of my life too. Come, Rhysand said, beckoning with a hand. We're already late. You have the ick. We're on page 348 in the middle. We walked through the halls. The sounds of the merriment rose ahead of us, and my face burned as I silently bemoaned the too sheer fabric of my dress. Beneath it was visible to everyone, the paint hardly leaving anything to the imagination, and the cold cave air raised goosebumps on my skin. With my legs, sides, and most of my stomach exposed, save for the slender shafts of the fabric, I had to clench my teeth to keep them from chattering. My bare feet were half frozen, and I hoped that wherever we were going was going to have a giant fire. Off-kilter music brayed through 2 stone doors that I immediately recognized, the throne room. No, any place but here. Fairies and high fae gawked as we passed through this entrance. Some bowed to Rhysand, while others gasped. I spied several of Lucian's older brothers gathered just inside the doors. The smiles they gave were nothing more short of vulpine. Rhysand didn't touch me, but he walked close enough for it to be obvious that I was with him and that I belonged to him. I couldn't have been surprised if he attached a collar and leash around my neck. Maybe there would at some point now be one, and I was bound to him, the bargain marked on my flesh. Oh, what was it? I can't figure out how to splooter. Oh, how to become a splooter? I do have a video. I do have a short here on YouTube as well as on Instagram. I posted a video on Instagram how to do it. You can do it through the app or also online. If you go into your YouTube on your website on your phone, if you just go to youtube.com and you search for me, you should be able to find me and you should see the option to become a splooter. Message me instructions tomorrow. Yeah, I think oh yeah, there's instructions in my link tree too. That's right, Janice. Yeah, I put it in my link tree how to become a splooter as well. It's complicated. Yeah, unless you're on a computer, it's a little complicated. Tap on the $sign in the bottom right corner. Oh, maybe. I don't know. I don't have the same view as you guys do. For me, it just is an arrow. All right. Sorry, I lost my spot. Okay. I think we're on page 349. Whispers snaked around the shouts of celebrating, and even the music quieted as the crowd... Whoa, Erin! Erin became a postcard splooter. Let's go. Thank you, Erin. Thanks for becoming a postcard splooter. Thank you, Erin. Whispered snaked under the shouts of celebrating, and even the music quieted as the crowd parted and made a path for us to Amarantha's dais. Jackie became a postcard splooter. This is funny, she says. Thank you, Jackie. Let's go. I'd beaten her first task. I'd beaten her menial chores. I could hold my head up high. Tamlin was seated beside her on the same throne, in his usual clothing, no weapons sheathed anywhere on him. Rhysand had said that he wanted to tell him at the right moment that he wanted to hurt Tamlin by revealing him the bargain that I'd made. Scheming, wretched man. We were both already... I thought so. I thought you guys were both spooters. Maybe it doesn't auto-renew. Maybe you have to renew. Merry Midsummer, Rhysand said, bowing to Amarantha. She wore a rich gown of lavender and orchid purple, surprisingly modest. I was a savage before her cultivated beauty. What have you done with my captive? She said, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. Tamlin's face was like stone, save for white-knuckled grip on the arms of his throne. No claws. He was able to keep that sign of his temper at bay. I had done such a foolish thing in binding myself to Rhysand. Rhysand with the wings and talons lurking beneath that beautiful, flawless surface. Rhysand, who could shatter minds. I did it for you, I wanted to shout out. We made a bargain, Rhysand said. I flinched as he brushed a stray lock of hair from my face. He ran his fingers down my cheek, a gentle caress. The throne room was all too quiet as he spoke his next words to Tamlin. 1 week with me at the night court every month in exchange for my healing services after her first task. He raised my left arm to reveal the tattoo, whose ink didn't shine as much as the paint on my body. For the rest of her life, he added, oh my gosh. But his eyes were now upon Amarantha. The fairy queen straightened a little bit. Even Jurian's eyes seemed fixed on me, on Rhysand. For the rest of my life, he said it as if it were going to be a long, long while. Carolina with the 1 month postcard splooter. You were definitely one before. I wonder what happened. Yeah, you guys must have to renew them or something. Thank you. Thank you, Carolina. He thought I was going to beat her tasks. I stared at his profile, at the elegant nose and sensuous lips. Games. Rhysand liked to play games, and it seemed I was now to be a key player in whatever this one was. Enjoy my party, was Amarantha's only reply as she toyed with the bone at the end of her necklace. Dismissed, Rhysand put a hand on my back to steer us away, to turn me from Tamlin, who still gripped the throne. The crowd kept a good distance. We're just hitting the button. It says it automatically when you guys hit the button. That's funny. Hit it again. Let's see. It doesn't charge you anything, right? Anything for you, Steph? I know, I just subscribed through 2028. That's funny. Just click on subscription. That's funny. The crowd kept a good... Wait. Yeah, okay. The crowd kept a good distance, and I couldn't acknowledge any of them out of fear I might have to look at Tamlin again, or might spy Lucian, glimpse the expression of his face when he beheld me. I kept my chin up. I wouldn't let the others notice that weakness. I wouldn't let them know how much it killed me to be so exposed to them, to have Rhysand's symbols painted out nearly every inch of my skin, to have Tamlin see me so debased. Rhysand stopped before the table laden with exquisite foods. MC right here, says MC. MC with the postcard splooter. I was trying to hook Donna up. Oh, Lord mighty. The option isn't there now, says Aaron. Hopefully it's... I don't think it's charging you when you click that, right? Splooter, says Valerie. Okay, I don't know. You guys are playing around with it. Rhysand stopped before the table laden with exquisite foods. The high fae around it quickly cleared away. If there was any other members of the night court present, they didn't ripple with darkness the way Rhysand and his servants didn't dare approach him. The music grew loud enough to suggest that there were probably dancing somewhere in the room. Wine, he asked. Alice's first rule. I shook my head no. He smiled and extended the goblet again. Drink, you'll need it, he said. Drink, my mind echoed, and my fingers stirred, moving towards the goblet. No, Alice said not to drink the wine here. Wine that was different from that joyous freeing solstice wine. No, I said. And some of the fairies who were watching us from a safe distance chuckled. Drink, he said. And my traitor's fingers latched onto the goblet. I awoke in my cell, still clad in the handkerchief he called a dress. Everything was spinning so badly I barely made it to the corner before I vomited again and again. We're on page 351. When I'd emptied my stomach, I crawled to the opposite corner of the cell and collapsed. Sleep came fitfully as the world continued to twirl violently around me. I was tied to a spinning wheel, going around and around and around. Needless to say, I was sick a fair amount that day. I just finished picking at the hot dinner that had appeared moments before when the door creaked and the golden fox appeared, along with the narrowed metal eye. Shit, Lucian said. It's freezing in here. It was, but I was too nauseated to notice. Keeping my head up was an effort, let alone keeping the food down. He unclasped his cloak and set it around my shoulders, its heavy warmth leaking into mine. Look at this, he said, staring at the paint on me. Thankfully, it was all intact, save for a few pieces at my waist. What happened? I got out, even though I wasn't sure I truly wanted the answer. My memory was a dark blur of wild music. Lucian drew back. I don't think you want to know, he said. I studied the few smudges on my waist, marks that looked like hands that held my... Who did that to me? I asked quietly, my eyes tracing the arc of the spoiled paint. Who do you think? My heart clenched and I looked at the door. Did Tamlin do it? Lucian nodded. Did Tamlin see it? Lucian nodded. Rhys was only doing it to get a rise out of him. Did it work? I asked. I couldn't look at Lucian in the face. I knew at least that I hadn't been violated beyond touching my sides. The paint told me that much. No, Lucian said, and I smiled grimly. What was I doing the whole time? I asked. So much for Alice's warning. Lucian let out a sharp breath, running a hand through his red hair. He had you dance for him most of the night, and when you weren't dancing, you were sitting in his lap. Oh my gosh. That's so creepy. I don't know. It's kind of like a weird writing, you know? What kind of dancing? I pushed. Not the kind you were doing with Tamlin on Solstice, Lucian said, and my face heated. From the murkiness of my memory of the last night, I recalled a closeness of a certain pair of eyes, the eyes that sparkled with mischief as they beheld me. Fanny's purring. In front of everyone? I asked. Yes, Lucian replied, more gently than I'd heard him speak to me before. I stiffened. I didn't want his pity. He sighed and grabbed my left arm, examining the tattoo. What were you thinking? Didn't you know I'd come as soon as I could? I yanked my arm from him. I was dying. I had a fever. I was barely able to keep conscious. How was I supposed to know that you would come? That you even understood how quickly humans can die of that sort of thing? You told me you hesitated that time with the Naga. I swore an oath to Tamlin. I had no other choice, I said. You think I'm going to trust you after everything you said to me at the manor? I risked my neck for you during that task. Was that not enough? His metal eye whirled softly. You offered up your name for me. After all that I said to you, all I did, you still offered up your name. Didn't you realize I would help you after that? Oath or no oath? I hadn't realized it would mean anything to him at all. I had no other choice, I said again, breathing hard. Don't you understand what rice is? He asked. I do, I barked, and then I sighed. I do. I repeated and glared at the eye in my palm. It's done with, so you needn't hold to whatever oath you swore to Tamlin to protect me, or feel like you owe me anything for saving you from Amarantha. I wouldn't have done it just to wipe the smirk off of your brothers' faces. I would have done it. I think she uses the word bark and purr specifically. So I think she uses bark to show aggression and purring to show submission. It's kind of weird, but the way she uses them, it's like she puts them in there on purpose, barking and purring. Yeah, I think she's using them a certain way, which is fine. I'm just noticing it. I do, I barked. Okay. Lucian clicked his tongue, but his remaining russet eye shone. I'm glad to see you didn't sell your lively human spirit or stubbornness to Rhys. A book. That's right, Abdi. Just a week of my life every month, I said. Yes, well, we'll see about that when the time comes, he growled. That metal eye flicking to the door. He stood. I should go. The rotation's about to shift. He made it a step before I said, I'm sorry, that she still punished you for helping me during my task. I heard. My throat tightens. I heard what she made Tamlin do to you. He shrugged, but I added, thank you for helping me. He walked to the door, and for the first time I noticed how stiffly he moved. It's why I couldn't come sooner, he said, his throat bobbing. She used her powers to keep me from healing. I haven't been able to move until today. So, okay, so she wouldn't have gotten healed if he hadn't been able to move. He only came today. So all this time that she's been healed, he's getting on her saying, you should have known, you should have waited. You should have known I would come. But she could have like passed away. So of course it was for the best that she went to Rhysand, right? I think so. Exactly. And he's still gaslit her. Jackie knows. So he's like, yeah, exactly. She made the right call, even though it's weird. Breathing became a little difficult. Here, I said, removing his cloak and standing to hand it to him. The sudden cold sent goose flesh rippling over me. Keep it. I swiped it off a dozing guard on my way in here, he said. In the dim light, the embroidered symbol of the sleeping dragon glimmered. Amarantha's coat of arms. I grimaced, but shrugged it on. Besides, Lucian added with a smirk, I've seen enough of you through the gown to last a lifetime. I flushed as he opened the door. Wait, I said, is Tamlin all right? I mean, the spell Amarantha had him under made him so silent. There's no spell. Hasn't it occurred to you that Tamlin is keeping quiet to avoid telling Amarantha which form of your torment affects him the most? No, I hadn't. He's playing a dangerous game, he said. Lucian said, slipping out the door. We all are. All right, we're on the bottom of page 353. That next night, I was again washed, painted, and brought to that miserable throne room. Oh my gosh, he did that to her again? Wow. That is, like, mean, I think. I think that, I don't like it. I thought I would like the guy. I don't like the guy. I don't like it one bit. The next night I was washed, painted, and brought to that miserable throne room. Not a ball this time, just some evening entertainment, which it turned out was me. Oh my gosh. After I drank the wine, though, I was mercifully unaware of what was happening. Night after night, I was dressed in the same way and made to accompany Rhysand to the throne room. Thus I became Rhysand's plaything, the harlot of Amarantha's W word. I woke with vague shards of memories, of dancing between Rhysand's legs as he sat in a chair and laughed, of his hands stained blue from the places they touched on my waist, my arms, but somehow never more than that. He had me dance until I was sick, and once I was done retching, he told me to dance again. Ew, right? It's rude, right? Yeah. Do I see comments on YouTube? Yeah, I do. I ignore most of them. I'm trying to keep you guys. But yeah, like some of these, like the one before you, I just ignore. Hi, you guys. I just think it's so rude, right? I just don't like this. I don't like this whole scene. Like, I just don't enjoy this part of the book, actually. Yeah, it's like sick, right? Like, I don't know. Like, she could have, I don't know. I don't mean to be so critical. I just don't like it. I awoke ill and exhausted each morning, and though Rhysand's order to the guards had indeed held, the nightly activities left me thoroughly drained. I spent my days sleeping off the fairy wine, dozing to escape the humiliation I endured. When I could, I contemplated Amarantha's riddle over and over again to no avail. And when I again entered the throne room, I was allowed only a glimpse of Tamlin before the drug of the wine took hold. But every time, every night, just for the one glance, I didn't hide the love and pain that welled in my eyes when they met his. Very cool hair. Thanks, Popo. Yeah, it's just creepy. It's just creepy. Okay. Bottom of page 354. I had finished being painted and dressed, my gossamer gown a shade of blood orange that night, when Rhysand entered the room. The shadow maids, as usual, walked through the walls and vanished, but rather than beckon me to come with him, Rhysand closed the door. Your second trial is tomorrow night, he said. The gold and silver thread in his black tunic shone in the candlelight. He never wore another color. It was like a stone to the head. I'd lost count of the days. So, I asked. It could be your last, he said, and leaned against the door frame, crossing his arms. If you're taunting me into playing another game of yours, you're wasting your breath, I said. Aren't you going to beg me to give you another night with your beloved? I'll have that night and all the ones after when I beat her final task, I said. Rhysand shrugged and then flashed a grin as he pushed off the door and stepped towards me. I wonder if you were this prickly with Tamlin when you were his captive. He'd never treated me like a captive or a slave, I said. No, and how could he? Not with the shame of his father and brother's brutality always weighing on him, the poor noble beast. But perhaps if he'd bothered to learn a thing or two about cruelty and what it means to be a true High Lord, it would have kept the spring court from failing. Your court fell too, I said. Sadness flickered in those violet eyes. I wouldn't have noticed it had I not felt it deep inside me. My gaze drifted to the eye etched in my palm. What manner of tattoo exactly was this that he had given me? But instead I asked, when you were roaming freely on Fire Night at the Rite, you said it cost you. Were you one of the high lords that sold allegiance to Amarantha in exchange for not being forced to live down here? Whatever sadness had been in his eyes vanished, only cold, glittery calm remained. I could have sworn a shadow of mighty wings stained the wall behind him. What I do or have done for my court is none of your concern. And what has she been doing for the past 49 years, I asked, holding court and torturing everyone she pleases, to what end? Tell me about the threat that she poses to the human world, I wanted to beg. Tell me about what all this means, why so many awful things have to happen. The Lady of the Mountain needs no excuses for her actions, he said. But, I started, the festivities await, he gestured to the door behind him. I knew I was on dangerous ground, but I didn't care. What do you want with me beyond tormenting Tamlin? Taunting him is my greatest pleasure, he said with a mock bow. And as for your question, why does any male need a reason to enjoy the presence of a female? You saved my life, I said, and though through your life I saved Tamlin's, he said. Why, I asked. He winked, smoothing his black hair. That, Feyre, is the real question, isn't it? With that, he led me from the room. We reached the throne room, and I braced myself to be drugged and disgraced again, but it was Rhysand the crowd looked at, Rhysand who Lucian's brothers monitored. Amarantha's clear voice rang out over the music, summoning him. He paused, glancing at Lucian's brothers, stalking towards us, their attention pinned on me. Eager, hungry, wicked, I opened my mouth, not too proud to ask Rhysand not to leave me alone with them while he dealt with Amarantha, but he put his hand on my back and nudged me along. Just stay close and keep your mouth shut, he murmured in my ear as he led me by my arm. The crowd parted as if we were on fire, revealing all too soon what was before us. Not us, I amended, but Rhysand. A brown-skinned high-fae male was sobbing on the floor before the dais. Amarantha was smiling at him like a snake, so intently that she didn't even spare me a glance. Beside her, Tamlin remained utterly impassive, a beast without claws. Rhysand flicked his eyes to me, a silent command to stay at the edge of the crowd. I obeyed, and when I lifted my attention to Tamlin, waiting for him to look, just look at me, he did not. His focus was wholly on the queen, on the male before her. Point taken. He barked. Amarantha caressed her ring, watching every movement that Rhysand made as he approached. The summer lordling, she said of the male cowering at her feet, trying to escape through the exit of the spring courtlands. I want to know why. There was a tall, handsome, high-fae male standing at the crowd's edge, his hair near white, eyes of crushing crystal blue, his skin of richest mahogany. But his mouth was drawn as his attention darted between Amaranth and Rhysand. I'd seen him before during the first task, the High Lord of the Summer Court. Before he'd been shining, almost leaking golden light, but now he was muted and drab, as if Amarantha had leached every last drop of power from him while she interrogated his subject. Rhysand slid his hands into his pockets and sauntered closer to the male on the ground. The summer fairy cringed, his face shining with tears. My own bowels turned watery. This is her second time saying that. Why does she do that? What is up? What is up? I don't understand. I've never read something like this. I don't understand it. Okay. My own bowels turned watery with fear and shame as he wet himself at the sight of Rhysand. Please, he gasped out. The crowd was breathless, silent. His back to me, Rhysand's shoulders were loose, not a stitch of clothing out of place, but I knew his talons had latched onto the fairy's mind the moment the male stopped shaking on the ground. The High Lord of Summer had gone still too, and it was pain, real pain, and fear that shone in those stunning blue eyes. Summer was one of the courts that had rebelled, I remembered, so this was a new, untested High Lord who had not yet had to make choices that cost him lives. After a moment of silence, Rhysand looked at Amarantha. He wanted to escape, to get to the spring court, to cross the wall and flee south to human territory. He had no accomplices, no motive beyond his own pathetic cowardice. He jerked his chin toward the puddle of piss beneath the mail. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the summer High Lord, sag a bit, enough to make me wonder what sort of choice Rhys had made in that moment he'd taken to search the male's mind. Here on page 358, we just have a page and a half left. But Amarantha rolled her eyes and slouched in her throne. Shatter him, Rhysand. She flicked a hand at the High Lord of the Summer Court. You may do what you want with the body afterward. The High Lord of the Summer Court bowed as if he'd been given a gift and looked at his subjects who had gone still and calm on the floor, hugging his knees. The male fairy was ready and relieved. Rice slipped a hand out of his pocket and it dangled at his side. I could have sworn phantom talons flickered there as his fingers curled slightly. I'm growing bored, Rhysand, Amarantha said with a sigh, again fiddling with that bone. She hadn't looked at me once, too focused on her current prey. Rhysand's fingers curled into a fist. The fairy male's eyes went wide, then glazed as he slumped on the side of the puddle of his own waist. Blood leaked from his nose, from his ears, pooling on the floor. That fast, that easily, that irrevocably, he was dead. I said shatter his mind, not his brain, she snapped. The crowd murmured around me, stirring. I wanted nothing more than to fade back into it, to crawl into my cell and burn from my mind. Tamlin hadn't flinched, not a muscle. What horrors had he witnessed in his long life if he hadn't broken the distant expression and that control? Rhysand shrugged, his hand sliding into his pocket. Apologies, my queen. He turned away without being dismissed and didn't look at me as he strode for the back of the throne room. I fell into step beside him, reining in my trembling, trying not to think about my body sprawled behind us or about Claire, still nailed to the wall. That poor girl is still nailed to the wall. Jeez. The crowd stayed far, far back as we walked through it. Some of them called her the W word. Hissing, out of earshot, Amarantha's W word. But many offered tentative, appreciative smiles and words. Good that you killed him. Good that you unalived the traitor. Rhysand didn't deign to acknowledge any of them, his shoulders still loose, his footsteps unhurried. I wonder whether anyone but he and the High Lord of the Summer Court knew that the unaliving had been a mercy. I was willing to bet that there had been others involved in that escape plan, perhaps even the High Lord of the Summer Court himself. But maybe keeping those secrets had only been done in the aid of whatever games Rhysand liked to play. Maybe sparing that fairy male by unaliving him swiftly, rather than shattering his mind and leaving him a drooling husk, had been another calculated move too. Rhymes with more. Yeah. I just don't want to say the word. I don't know. He didn't pause once on the long trek across the throne room, but when we reached the food and wine at the back of the room, he handed me a goblet and downed one alongside me. He didn't say anything before this wine swept me into oblivion. All right. We're ending there on page 360, chapter 40. So we probably have like 2 live streams left is my guess, because I think we have 4 more chapters. 416. We don't have that much left. I bet you our next live stream will get through the last of it, because we only have a few pages. I bet you the next live stream will get through the last of it. We'll see. I kind of want to keep going, but also I don't. This last chapter was pretty gross, wasn't it? This last chapter was a little gross for me. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight, guys. Are you gonna do another book? I haven't decided yet. Maybe short stories. This has been a long commitment. This has been a lot of live streams. I think this was, what was this, live stream 18 or 19 for the one book. That's a lot of live streams. That's a lot of weeks too. I think it's been about a month or so. I would like to maybe do shorter ones, maybe. I can't wait for the ending. Yeah. That was gross for everyone. I don't like her having to be in front of everybody like that with the paint on and dancing and sitting on his, it's just all that stuff is just kind of like, I don't know, a little unnecessary. I guess the point is that she's being shamed and doesn't know what she's doing, but I just don't like that, like, personally. So anyways, we'll just see where it goes. We got a few more chapters left. Thanks for hanging out and reading the book with me tonight. Hopefully it picks up a little bit nicer the next live stream. I think I am going to try to go over to TikTok after this. So I'm going to go ahead and end this live stream. I'll be live on TikTok in about 5 minutes or so. Major travel time. Yeah, it's not been so bad, Donna. It's been fun. I've enjoyed reading the book. We have been doing a lot of traveling, so it's 11:15. Make a wish. Thank you for reading to us. Oh, thanks for hanging out, you guys. I'll be back later. I'm gonna go over to TikTok now. Have a great night if I don't see you guys over there. Thanks, you guys. An all-nighter? Nah, I just be up for a little bit longer. All right. We'll see you guys later. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.